apparently.
Bien, yo la primera parte, mi saludo sí va a ser en español, especialmente para agradecer la participación de la supervisora del circuito 5 del Ministerio de Educación, que nos acompaña, la doctora Claudia Bejarano, a la cual le damos la bienvenida y le invitamos a participar en un curso veloz de inglés, en una charla que va a estar muy interesante. Y también tenemos entre los participantes a nuestras profesoras del campo de la formación general, la profesora Natalia Paveto, que es del área de Ciencias de la Educación. Obviamente no podemos exigirle que esté todo el tiempo participando en inglés, al igual que la profesora Lorena Lalita, que se sumó, que es nuestra profe de Psicología Educativa. Y entonces, bueno, la primera parte del saludo es en español, nos vamos a ubicar cómo vamos a trabajar y luego sí ya los expertos y especialistas van a empezar en la parte en inglés. Por mi parte solamente es desearles una buena tarde, una buena jornada, agradecerles que se sumen a este encuentro, que tampoco es, digamos, no queríamos hacer algo formal, no, ni congreso, ni evento importante, simplemente un encuentro, una oportunidad de charlar y de compartir. Y en todo este tiempo siempre hemos hablado de las prácticas docentes, especialmente enfocadas en la normativa, en cómo acomodar toda la institución, cómo acomodar toda la estructura que soporta, digamos, las prácticas docentes. Lo que pasa con el docente en esta época de aislamiento, de distanciamiento, qué pasa con la educación virtual o a distancia. Y nosotros decidimos dar un pasito más allá y decir, bueno, a ver, ¿qué pasó con los estudiantes en estas prácticas docentes? Nos faltaba la mirada y la palabra y decidimos abrir la palabra a los estudiantes que tuvieron que hacer sus prácticas docentes en este periodo, y también abrir la palabra a los coformadores que tuvimos que trabajar en todo este periodo. Y por suerte con la forma de trabajo que planteamos desde el instituto y desde el departamento de práctica, con la profesora Fabiana Gallo coordinando, el profesor Ariel Olmedo y Natalia Paveto en taller 4, y los profes de los otros talleres de docencia, pudimos crear esos lazos que hicieron que hoy tengamos entre la audiencia a muchos coformadores que nos abrieron las puertas para hacer las prácticas, y colegas de las otras instituciones que se encontraron en la misma situación que nosotros, y que decidimos compartir lado a lado las experiencias y ver qué les sucedió a ellos también, aunque fueran institutos que tienen gestiones totalmente diferentes a la nuestra, pero bueno, este es el momento de los estudiantes y no importa de qué tipo de instituto y de qué tipo de gestión, creo que es el valor de darles la palabra y ver qué le pasó al estudiante, y los coformadores o los formadores quedarnos de audiencia y ver a ver qué nos cuentan, para ver qué tenemos que reacomodar para la próxima edición el año próximo. Así que bueno, yo les agradezco al IES 28 que está participando con sus alumnos y sus profesores, al Instituto de Formación Docente número 16, Bernardo José, también que nos acompaña, y a alumnos y profes del profesorado de Nuestra Señora del Perpetuo Socorro de San Pedro. Así que bueno, abrimos la jornada con una charla a cargo de un profe que compartimos con San Pedro, que está en los dos institutos, el profesor Ariel Olmedo, que va a abrir sí con una charla en inglés, a ver cuáles son esas cosas que tenemos que desandar y volver a andar para ver cómo seguimos en este proceso. Así que bueno, yo les doy la palabra y quedo simplemente como soporte técnico.
Okay, thanks, Pero. Well, now, before starting sharing our experiences, let me introduce you Ariel Olmedo, who is, as Veronica said, teacher trainer at Workshop 4 at St. Bartholomew's Institute, and Workshop 2 and 3 at Instituto Nuestra Señora del Socorro in San Pedro, and also he is a language teacher at both institutes. So welcome, Ariel, and we are all ears.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining this session. And the idea for this is going to be very brief, and the idea is to kick off before you start sharing your experiences in this second stage. Okay, let's kick off with this quote by Alvin Toffler: "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn and relearn." I think we have put this quote to the test during this time, during this emergency remote teaching. And let me contextualize this very clearly with some statistics, okay? This just to see the magnitude of what is happening and how this has affected the whole world, okay? 134 countries implementing nationwide closures and 38 local closures, okay? This means that school closures have impacted about 98.5% of the world's student population, and approximately 1.8 billion learners and 80 million teachers, colleagues around the world have been affected by school closures. So we are not alone in this. These are uncharted territories for all of us, okay? This is taken from a study by UNESCO. They said COVID-19 has revealed vulnerabilities, as we have seen in our contexts across the country, but it has also surfaced extraordinary human resourcefulness and potential. This is something to be proud of. In the face of a crisis, we tap into our potential and try to rethink and reinvent the situation. Okay, so it's like the glass half full, half empty situation kind of thing. All right, some terms that we have become fully familiar with. Let's define a couple of them. Distance learning and remote learning have been used sort of interchangeably. Distance learning is an older term. So, for example, from the 1800s onwards, there has been some sort of distance learning by mailing. All right. Remote learning is a newer term and includes this idea of using online classes. And we have been familiarized with blended learning for quite some time. Blended learning giving the option of having these synchronous and asynchronous teaching situations. And it has been resignified now because it's not just using videos to teach remotely, but we have been having this sort of hybrid situation in which asynchronous and synchronous and all the categories, all the modes that we have been using. So blended learning has been increased in its meaning, let's say, and we have been introduced to a new term, emergency remote teaching and learning, which is to describe the situation that we are currently facing. It's called emergency because when you plunge into remote learning or teaching, this is the result of planning. So an institution or a government puts into place a platform. The teachers have time to plan the year with these digital resources, but this has not been the case for the majority of us. It is responsive teaching, it is reactive teaching in the face of crisis. This has not been planned, and we have not been properly trained, and we may not even have the proper tools to implement as we would have liked this remote teaching. In the words of Hodges, who is the one that actually coined this term, emergency remote teaching, he defines that as teaching that is temporary, okay, and it's an alternative delivery mode due to crisis circumstances, in this case, the pandemic. And he figures that this may not be the last time that we face a crisis, but hopefully it will be the last time that we implement emergency remote teaching. If we capitalize on this experience, we will be better prepared to face the next crisis, which might be inevitable. Now, some numbers about accessibility, which has been a major cause of concern. these are global statistics published by UNICEF. Now, 50% of learners globally have computers at home, which means half the students don't. And 57% have access to internet through other means, all right? In Argentina, these statistics have been taken from the PISA study and the Aprender Plan. Now, 50% of high school students do not have access to internet connection at home. Okay, now this is an average, but we know that depending on the region, depending on the different contexts, this percentage will vary significantly. And according to the PISA study, we rank 62 out of 80 countries in terms of accessibility to internet and computer at home. We are ranking below other neighboring countries like Brazil, Chile, and Uruguay, but slightly better than Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador. Yeah. All right. This is something taken from the British Council, who published this in June this year. It says they say that the opportunity to interact with the teacher in real time appears as the most significant loss due to COVID-19. Okay, and this is something that we have felt in the flesh. We have missed the interaction with our students or with our teacher, depending on which situation we are facing at the moment. Now, to open up the chat, I'm going to ask you to type if you have been working or interacting only synchronously or only asynchronously or with a mixture of the two systems. Can you just type in the chat box how you have been mainly interacting with your students or your teachers? Let's see what comes up. Okay, let me open the chat. Mixed. So, mixture, both. All right. Okay, overwhelmingly, but a mixture, some cases of asynchronous teaching, but overwhelmingly it has been both, which means that we are some of the lucky ones that have this richness of environment. We have been able to have synchronous meetings with our students and our teachers, but also interacting asynchronously. This is like a privileged situation that has not been the case for many students around the world, and especially in our country. Okay, another question to interact in the chat. Have you been properly or specifically trained on e-safety? Or do you even know what e-safety is? So I'm going to have a look at the chat. No. Not sure if this is the same person answer or everyone is typing now simultaneously. All right, so this seems to be a recurrent answer. Okay.
Ariel, sorry, they are students from different teacher training colleges. So
yeah,
I mean,
I know. It was intended as a joke, but it didn't land.
I didn't get it.
All right. So this is a reflection of what emergency really means. We were expected as institutions or as teachers to overnight implement this remote teaching plan. Now, and the priorities when we are in an emergency normally shift a bit. Now, if we had had time to plan, a more natural approach would have been to train teachers into this modality and to implement a safe protocol. And when everything was properly developed, only then make it implemented. But the reality was that we were launched into Meet or into Zoom overnight. Most of us, I'm including myself, I became acquainted with lots of platforms that I didn't know beforehand, like Microsoft Teams or Zoom or even Meet. And I don't know if you remember the Zoom bombing that were a cause of concern at the beginning of the year, like people who would sort of sabotage your Zoom meeting with your students. And so little by little, we started learning about implementing protocols, recommending proper courses of actions for our students, increasing the levels of security and safety for our meetings, like adding a password or not sharing the links, or properly setting the links for not anyone with the link can be able to open it, but rather only those within my circle, my safe circle, can access it. So we've learned how to implement a bit of safety, but we learned along the way. But this is not only in Argentina. This is something by the British Council. This is mainly done for universities, but it applies to many high schools around the world. It says that in the UK, only 1/3 of respondents stated that they provided online safety guidance. One possible conclusion from this is that faced with the necessity to respond quickly to minimize loss of learning, insufficient attention has been paid or insufficient understanding has been developed to quantify and mitigate risk associated with digital learning. So these are things that we are learning along the way that we didn't consider beforehand and was not a priority apparently when we first implemented emergency remote teaching. Now, what many schools did was to implement some sort of charter. This is like a student-friendly charter to give some sort of recommendation or a protocol of how to approach the online environment. Okay, so this is a very simple and very memorable way of be safe, be kind, be aware. All right. Now, although this is emergency remote teaching, there has been a lot of remote teaching over the last decades or so, and therefore there has been a lot of studies concerned with remote teaching and learning. Now, they have been collecting these, there have been a meta-analysis of these studies to see how much they apply to this emergency situation, and they identify key elements of effective distance teaching and learning. This is taken from a study by the Education Endowment Foundation in June, and they updated this, not in March, and they updated this in June this year. Okay, so the key factors from this collection of research around the world are teaching quality, okay, regardless of the mode of implementing this teaching, synchronously or asynchronous, with this platform or another platform, is the teaching quality that matters. That's a point number one. The other one they mention is peer interaction. And finally, supporting students to learn independently. This is something that is inevitable in remote situations, okay? They need to develop this independence. Now, a kind of sort of caveat for this. Now, this has been mainly done before the pandemic, and the population was probably 45% university students, but most of this has been proven to apply to high school situations and primary situations as well. All right, so let's see, what do we mean by teaching quality? What they list as effective teaching quality is implementing clear presentations that engage learners and build on previous knowledge, scaffolding, both at the level of content and also metacognitively. So a lot of reflection going on, mixing up our practice to include a variety of options and a wide menu of things to do, constructive, timely, and personalized feedback, and targeted assessment, assessing that is effective and targets the objectives that we set out at the beginning of the unit. Now, if we have a look at this, does it show, or does it seem to be that different from what we do in-person teaching? I would argue that most of you are shaking your heads. I mean, this is what I do when I go in-person teaching. All right, so teaching quality remains unchanged. Peer interaction, okay, so peer interaction, and they single out collaborative tasks, working in groups to achieve an aim. Peer teaching, okay, so when we have students teaching another group of peers, peer marking and feedback, sharing models of good work. There's a typo there, my bad. And live discussions and synchronous group meetings so that they can interact. It could even be on a WhatsApp group, these synchronous discussion groups, okay? But this is a way of encouraging peer interaction. And this is something I'm gonna ask you again. Now, the format or the shape may be different, but isn't this something that we also encourage in our in-person teaching? The idea of interacting as a group with our students. I would take it that you are saying yes, okay? This is one of the things that we have to become accustomed to. I mean, so I'm looking only at 3 people at the moment, but I'm gonna assume that all of you are doing the same thing. Supporting independent learning by prompting students to reflect and share their reflection. This has to do with a lot of metacognitive work that has to go on to discuss and evaluate different strategies for the different tasks. Arrange regular check-in points. So if you set an objectives, maybe some students can achieve it earlier than others. So to have these regular check-ins to see and to help them navigate their own trajectory. Provide checklists, what is expected of them, and a clear time frame, okay? Because one of the things that happens during remote teaching is that we need to help them plan and organize their time because they're not at school where the environment itself will sort of guide you. Okay, now it's the break time, now it's the biology hour, so we need to help them plan all this. And this is something that may not be easy to implement in all contexts, but one recommendation was to establish office hours. This was a recommendation that was given to across ministries in Europe because this was an idea to help teachers switch off from work, not to be available to our students 24/7, but say, okay, if I know I'm going to be correcting work on Mondays from 2 to 3, I'm going to be correcting at home. So Mondays from 2 to 3, I advertise to my students as office hours. If anyone has a doubt or a query, they can find me from 2 to 3 on Mondays where I'll be correcting. If there's no doubt or query, I will be correcting uninterruptedly. If there's any kind of query, I know I will answer during this time and not maybe at 11 p.m. on a Sunday, yeah? This was a recommendation, but maybe it's not culturally appropriate in every context or to the situations that we may be facing, all right? Now, I'm gonna say, Beto, do you think that you can launch a poll? There has to be a poll in, all right? And we are gonna see, this very quickly, I'm gonna give you a list of challenges and I will let you to take the ones that you think apply to you.
Shall I start it?
Yes, I think it's question number 3. We're only gonna do question number 3.
Do you have the chance to vote? Can you see the voting options?
Yes. Yes, we can see it.
Okay.
You can.
So
Okay.
just number 3.
So let me see. I can't see it. I don't know why.
We can, yes.
Okay, good. Fabi, can you read the question?
Okay, number 3, you mean?
Yeah.
Just number 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which of these have you found challenging during the pandemic? You have to, different options. A, teaching online, planning and delivering lessons. B, teaching online, managing the learners. C, motivating the learners. D, making contact with learners. E, maintaining a sense of community. F, teaching speaking. G, checking understanding and giving feedback. And H, assessing progress.
Okay, so make sure you type You select from the chat, from the poll.
So apparently we have to answer also 1 and 2 in order to send the answers, Ariel, or just number 3?
Just number 3. We're gonna do only number 3.
So, and we send it.
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
And it should be, I think Vera should be able to
but
show
maybe does it allow us to send if it's just number 3?
Yes, I was seeing the result.
Probably not. We have to answer 1 and 2 also.
Sorry about that. Yes.
So probably. we answered and we send.
Very short. 1 and 2 are very short.
We already answered them in the chat.
Yes, 1, 2, and then 3, and then we can send.
Pero, can you see the results?
Not now. Apparently, you took control of it, and I don't see it anymore. I was checking that it was 63%. The challenge was teaching online.
There are some people in the waiting room, so apparently.
I'll take it.
Okay. And let's see if we can see
I think
results.
you can reclaim host position because I cannot see the poll. So this is the problem of having 2 hosts simultaneously. Only one can see the poll at the moment.
So probably Veronica is the one.
Okay, but I'm not seeing it anymore. Let me check.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it has disappeared.
From what you have been saying.
These are the challenges.
Yes. Motivation was a key one. All right.
Yes.
Let me share the screen again. All right. So we have been thrown into the situation, and we have been motivation has always been a concern, and assessment has another major concern. How to properly manage the learning and assess the students in a way that we feel satisfied. Also motivation, initial engagement is one thing, and ongoing engagement, what has been harder to achieve, all right? But apart from all these challenges that you are going to be exploring when you share your experiences, we have been lucky enough to see that there have been many opportunities as well. Okay, some of the things that happen with online teaching is that we have been given probably more freedom or more resources to differentiate our work. We have been able to cater for the different styles, or for the different spaces, or for the different aims that we set up for our students, because it's easy to differentiate when we have this asynchronous platform, or to give proper individual attention. If we have been struggling with classroom management in-person teaching, it's much easier for us to send an individual message to one student or to a shy student to encourage him to say the answer in the next round if we check it beforehand. So we have this, technology has allowed us to increase the possibility of differentiating, paying individual attention to certain students that may need it most. We have been increasing autonomy. We have been, I'm sure I'm not the only one that has been positively surprised by the level of autonomy that students have achieved. If we set out the map for the unit, for the year, for the term, and we send like a clear time frame, once they get started, they know what to do, what is expected of them, and they have increased exponentially their autonomy. And also something that we are all tapping into is the digital communication skills, both from the students' perspective and from us, the teachers' perspective. We have all been trying our hands at lots of apps. We have learned how to use lots of online resources, I never thought I would have like a YouTube video channel, and now I do. I never thought I would be doing TikToks with my classes, but I have. We have all done lots of things that we probably never imagined we would do. And these are the things that we need to capitalize on, to tap into when we look to the future. Okay. Now, when we plan what's going to happen in 2021, we know that some sort of online teaching will be part of our year, but ideally it will no longer be emergency remote teaching. We have had a whole year to reflect back on. We're going to be sharing lots of wonderful experience today, and the idea is to learn, capitalize from this, and start 2021 with a greater sense of purpose and fewer, if possible, uncertainties. So I'm really looking forward to this sharing session and having a look at all the wonderful activities and units of work that you have implemented in the different contexts that you have been working with.
Okay, thank you, Ariel, for sharing with us these overwhelming statistics, and also for leading the way, or leading us into this metacognition, this metacognitive process that we are trying to undergo today, looking back at our remote teaching practices, right? The idea was just that, no? To make us all aware of how much we gain, or we have gained during this year, in which we have to face this so special situation, and probably take advantage or profit from it. And so now let's start sharing, yes, because we want to listen to our students telling us and telling us their experiences, sharing their experiences with us. And as some of you know me as a teacher trainer, I am a bit obsessed with lesson planning. That's why when we thought of how to organize your comments or your sharing, we thought of dividing the stages or your views, just for the sake of organization, into 3 big moments, that is to say pre, while, and post. That's why we thought of starting sharing your initial uncertainties, concerns, and fears. Let's try to think May or April, when little was known or when little was said about our students' teaching practices, right? So if you think it's okay, I would like to invite, first of all, our guests that are from far away, that is to say from San Pedro. If you want to start sharing, I don't know whether Franco, I saw you already there. I don't know you, but I saw you in the chat. So perhaps if you want to start sharing, you or one of your classmates, about your how you felt at the very beginning.
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Franco. I taught year 2 at Socorro School, and I worked asynchronously with them. Of course, when we got acquainted and we were actually told that we were going to be teaching through virtual lessons, there were some fears and some uncertainties of how we're going to be structuring our lessons based on this new context. For me in particular, I had like a personal fear of not being good enough, and this translated in what my teaching style was going to be, designing and preparing activities as well. But I think in general it was how to structure the entire unit of work around these elements of being distant from our students and virtuality as a whole.
I can continue. I didn't work with Franco, but I am from San Pedro too. My name is Florencia, and I worked with my pedagogical pair, Agos, that is here too. We worked together, And well, we experienced more or less the same concerns as Franco said, but we felt at the very beginning very worried about, for example, how to get along with presentation of grammar aspects that, well, to deliver a lesson virtually. And in our case, we have a mixture. We have a synchronous and asynchronous work.
Mm-hmm.
So we organize.
Yes, so go on.
No, you can continue.
So at the very beginning, we struggled with this particular thing of whether to present a particular grammar topic in our synchronous meeting or rather the asynchronous meeting. So we first struggled with that, and we managed to come up with the decision to make the grammar topics explained in our asynchronous meetings.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and did it work?
For us, yes, but I think we were very lucky also to work with very motivating students.
Okay.
They were very active from the very beginning. We felt quite welcome. Also with our co-trainers too. So it was a great experience for us. I think we did it very good.
Yes, at the very beginning, we were also worried because during the first term, they haven't been having online lessons.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, we were the first, let's say, to start this. So we didn't know how many students will be connected, if they are going to be motivated, if they are going to take part in the activities, to get engaged. So that was hard, especially to plan first.
Yes.
Okay. You know, Florencia, that while preparing this, my students at Olga Cosetini also made me aware of one of their main concerns, that was also lesson planning. Somebody from Olga Cosetini wants to follow? Don't know whether, yes.
I can do it.
Macarena. Okay. It was you, precisely.
Yes, it was me. Okay. Well, at the very beginning, when we started with these virtual lessons from workshop 3 at Olga Cosetini, I was wondering, are we going to truly learn how to plan a lesson? And how to plan a lesson to deliver it online or at schools? And what about our opportunity to practice? Are we going to be able to practice? Are schools going to accept us? And we were wondering that, and we felt very uncertain. Fortunately, we could do different instances of practices at different schools, and our experience was amazing in the end, and we learned a lot. But at the beginning, we were worried, scared. What's going to happen? How long is this going to be?
Okay. Okay, I believe this was shared, no, by everybody, even by us teachers, yes. And what about students from Hussein? Were they also, had they all, did you have the same worries? Don't know whether Dana is there, Antonella, I saw you around.
Yes, hello, I'm Dana, but this is my brother's account, so that's why it appears as another name. Okay. So one of our initial uncertainties and concerns was the way that we were going to handle the subject. How are we going to be able to deal with a subject that is based on the personal contact with students? So at first it was very difficult to organize ourselves, to find the way in which to deliver classes. And we got into yes, we agreed on having every Tuesday classes, which I think that really came in handy every single class. I don't know if Antonella wants to say something.
Yes. Yes, I'm here. Can you listen to me?
Yes, perfectly.
Yes, the same as Dana said, we consider ourselves as demanding people. And well, this instance, I think that we all, this instance has found us stressed and overwhelmed. It was really difficult for us to organize ourselves and of course to be up to date with all the subjects and assignments. And well, I was wondering if we feel like this, how would our students, what can we do for our students to not make feel this way? And well, that's one of my, the main uncertainty I have.
Good, good. So to stand on students' feet, right?
Yes,
and what about that's a good point. And what about our students at St. Bartholomew's? Which were their uncertainties or fears shared perhaps in workshop 3, workshop 4? To know whether Sol, Clara, or Juana, or one of the other. Okay, Annabella.
Okay. Well, apart from everything that they mentioned, I think our greatest fear was that we thought that we wouldn't be able to build rapport with students throughout the screen. But well, in the end, everything turned out well, luckily, and it was a very valuable experience. I don't know if my classmates want to add something. Or...
Okay, Annabella, sorry, as Ariel said, no, the most significant loss, perhaps, yes. I mean, your fears were connected with that, no? The most significant loss being that of the opportunity to interact and to build rapport yes. with students. Okay. Okay, don't know whether somebody else wants to add.
Yes.
Yes, Juana.
Sorry. You want?
Sorry, Juana. Who's first?
Sorry.
I think that it was also an opportunity because before all this, we wouldn't have the chance to teach remotely. And well, there are a lot of things that we wouldn't have learned. For example, we didn't know how to use many technological resources, but then we became familiar with a lot of them. I think that as a group, we worked perfectly. We gave each other recommendations and helped each other.
Mm-hmm. I see, good. Yes, Juana?
No, mainly that we were afraid of how were we going to deliver our lessons without our ordinary items like blackboard, flashcards, paper. That was a great fear. And also how we were going to check students' understanding without being able to see their faces or to check their reactions.
Good.
Because most of, for example, in my case, most of my students had their cameras off. So yes, it was quite difficult.
Of course, difficult to check.
To check, yes. To see their reactions, how they were feeling through the lesson.
Yes, this question of losing eye contact.
Yes.
No? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think that we can already, I don't know whether somebody wants to add something else, but Sol has already started mentioning challenges and opportunities. Do you want to move on? Yes.
Before we move on to the next, it's worth mentioning what you highlighted, this idea of building rapport and this idea of not many high school students being willing or able to turn on their cameras. From the get-go, yes, Marina, I'm gonna give you your mic in a second. From the get-go, we knew that it was gonna take longer to build rapport, and because it's online, it's remotely, we didn't know the students beforehand, and also this idea of not having this eye contact made it even more difficult. but we need to think that turning on the camera implies inviting you, a complete stranger, into the intimacy of my home, and how violent or aggressive it can seem to say, okay, now you turn on the camera because I say so. This is something that we need to earn, okay? And it is contextually appropriate. I know it's frustrating and we want everyone to turn on their cameras, but that's not always technologically possible or emotionally available option, okay? Marina was gonna say something.
Well, what you have just said rang a bell, because I've just finished Prácticas at Normal 1, and I was in charge of running activities at the 7th grade, and these children, almost teenagers, weren't. They didn't want to turn their cameras on. They felt embarrassed. It was hard for me to have them participate in the activities, but then the class teacher told me how problematic was for her for some students, to open their houses, because, for example, some of them lived in a house or had problems with chickens, or I don't know, maybe they didn't have a desk to work, and some of them were shy and didn't want to show their faces. So it wasn't always easy to reach to these students, and that is what is happening with teenagers and mostly with students at secondary schools.
Yes, Marina, you are right. The fact is that some students also have little brothers or sisters around, and they feel ashamed when there is noise. And at one school where I work, they said that it was called compulsory, that we should tell them, no, either on or leave. And really, I agree that it's very violent, and you cannot force somebody to do so. It was quite violent. I didn't agree with that rule. Okay, something else as regards the initial uncertainties, concerns, and fears?
Sorry, may I say something?
Yes, of course.
About what Ariel said and what Marina was explaining, and I thought of the initial uncertainties, now from my point of view as the head of an institute, and maybe the other teachers can feel the same, that apart from those first or initial uncertainties that you had as future teachers or trainee teachers, we were really worried at the beginning of how we would implement this question of practices, if we would be able to give the opportunity to our trainee students to become active participants in these kind of practices. And it was really a problem because, I mean, you are seeing this from the student's point of view. Imagine from the point of view of the institution, we had to contact and we had to count on the co-trainers and the schools, that they were very reluctant to open their doors, let's say, as institutions, to welcome trainee teachers. So I think that it was a very hard moment at the beginning of this term for the ones who take the practicum in the second term. And we had to make let's say, very slow and safe and subtle work with the different schools, institutes, because it was not easy at the beginning. And what Marina was saying about the students and what Fabio was also commenting, it happens also to teachers. Sometimes we teachers, I mean, the co-trainers, for example, they don't have the appropriate environment or a free room or a quiet place. We have the dogs. I have met grandmothers, I have seen mothers, I have delivered my lessons with babies around, with Sarah, with Juana showing off and saying something, and mothers shouting, it was time for dinner, and okay, that happens. And we had to get used to that also. It has become part of our environment, and that kind of initial polished, pure, let's say clean and yes, clean and pure environment for our class, that's no longer part of our reality. I mean, we had to break so many beliefs and things, and we have to say, okay, now this is what we have, so we have to work this way. And if we cannot see, let's say, our students, we had to develop some other senses or feelings so as to see, or strategies so as to check if they were understanding, if they were following the class, or if they were following our explanation, the grammar explanations that you were presenting. So it was difficult, and it's not just the students having problems or the students, let's say, having so many uncertainties. It's the same for the teachers, for the co-trainers, for the form teachers. So I think that we have to exercise this question of tolerance, empathy, and I don't know, become very, very patient.
Of course, I think that our colleagues from the other institutes, Luciana, Edita, also will share, no, these initial uncertainties that our students felt a bit worried, but we were sure that we would do our most, but we didn't know if we could do what we did in the end. No, that was to find a way and sort this out and find a way for everybody to try and experience this teaching this way, either synchronous learning or asynchronous learning, right? I don't know whether Edita,
Fabi,
Luciana, yes, Edita.
Yes, hello everybody. I agree completely, of course, but I think that the word is overwhelming, right? It was overwhelming not to have answers, right? Every week, students were waiting for answers the first part of the year, right? So it took some time to have the answers. And it was, I mean, every week being there and knowing that they were waiting for the answers, and we trying to figure out, yes, and making contacts with the class teachers, co-trainers, listening to the Board of Education, right, with the new regulations, and making sense. Well, but it worked.
But here we are. Yes, Luciana?
Yes, I fully agree with you. And I think that one of the main uncertainties, the concerns we had was this question of not having a regular, clear idea of what was going on to take decisions in the long run. I think that was quite overwhelming because we didn't know how to plan. So our subject is, practicum is planning, and we didn't know what to do because we didn't have any clear view about it, clear perspective. So I think that was the most challenging point. And on the other hand, the question of how overwhelmed and the amount of work that secondary school teachers had during this year, it was extremely stressful. And well, how important it was to cooperate with them, to collaborate with them.
Okay,
so
yes,
however,
right.
I think it was really exciting, amazing, and fulfilling in a way. We've discovered a lot.
Of course, and of course we have to thank these teachers at schools that, in spite of the fact that they were so overwhelmed, so stressed, they also venture and they also dared to undergo this opportunity that we had. So we have to thank them, no? And if you think we can make it, we may move, yes, and now we can go directly into the challenges and opportunities that this mode offered. I don't know whether students from which institute want to start?
I would like to talk from the Hussein.
Okay, yes, do so. Dana.
Yes, one of the challenges that I believe have overwhelmed teachers and students is the idea of overlapping roles. The idea of having, in my case, I don't have any children, but the idea of having to take classes at home and having to do other things, go to work, having to get earlier, having to go to work later, or having to
Yes, this question of doing many things at the same time, multitasking, teachers.
It's really like stressing, I believe. I was talking to Luciana when we had the meeting the other day, and when we were having our class, her son appeared, and this topic arose, how difficult it was for her having a little boy and having to deliver classes. I believe it's really overwhelming. And also for my students, my students that have to, for example, have other brothers or sisters and have to share the computer, and they have to leave earlier the meeting. And I think that there are a lot of challenges that arose during this pandemic. I don't know if Anto wants to say something.
Yes, no, I think that another thing that overwhelmed us was the fact we spent so many hours in front of the screen having lessons, and it's not the same if we are in a normal, if we can say normal, classroom in front of the teacher, we are classmates, tomando mate. Those are so different environments, and it made us feel very tired in that sense.
At first, the first couple of months, they were okay, but then mid-year came and I was like, I just want the year to end, have a nice break, and then start again, because I think that I need to breathe. It was too much. This year was really difficult, not just practicum, but every single subject. It's been difficult, but something that I want to highlight is the opportunities that we had in Practicum 3 with working with a pedagogical partner. That really helped us. That really helped us to go through this year so difficult. When doubts arose, we would have virtual meetings with our pedagogical partners, do assignments together, and I think that was really useful for this subject.
Okay, I believe that in some other teacher training colleges do also work this way. For example, at Olga Cosettini, at St. Bartholomew's, and that's a great opportunity, learning from others. I don't know what else you want to add as regards more challenges, opportunities.
I would like to add a comment.
Franco.
The girls highlighted the question of overlapping, and they were telling that it was overwhelming for them. But I think also overlapping, it was extremely overwhelming for students themselves, because in some cases, for example, as it happened here in Socorro, on Mondays, all subjects assigned their work for the week, And so like it was like extremely challenging for students to cope with all the work assigned and to respect deadlines. In my particular case, that's what I observed. Many of the inconsistencies that they have as regards their responsibility was because of this. They were having like too much work to do, and everything overlapped together at home, like having to cope with school, family. For us, it was also overwhelming, having to prepare things, helping at home, going to work. Everything was like at some point quite stressful, and but like they also said, there are some opportunities. There were some great opportunities for this question of learning through online, I would say. That for me was, for example, the question of all the available resources and materials that as teachers we could take and then implement in our lessons. It was a new way of teaching conventional things, I would say. That's the overall experience I got from this question of virtual learning.
Good, thank you, Franco. I don't know who else wants to add, tell us about challenges and opportunities.
I think that one of the, as regards opportunity was what Ariel was mentioning, and learning how to use apps that our students daily use, like TikTok, YouTube, Discord, you name it, and incorporate them to our daily teaching practice. I created accounts in Meet, Jitsi, Discord, Zoom in 1 week, I think. We also have the opportunity to learn to be flexible, to learn how to incorporate the timing of a Zoom into our practicums, deliver lessons in 40 minutes without being disconnected. Well, learn how to resort to this classroom management in this context.
That's right. Yes, Clara. And I was told by some students that Olga Cosettini, something that I haven't become aware until they told me, that was this question of preparing material for that group, something that in face-to-face teaching or face-to-face practices, sometimes we have in a way to follow a textbook. And probably our colleague Carla is going to be glad with this, because this was the first time I saw trainees preparing their own material. What about students from Olga Cosettini? Do you want to say something as regards this question of preparing your own material?
Yes, I can say something about it. Well, I think that this has been an enriching experience in this sense, because first we happened to work with a classmate and deliver the lessons together. And that was very enriching, because we happened to share ideas about this material we created, and also about the plans for the lessons or the activities we were using for the lessons. So we it was a group work. We improved together, and I think that was the most important, or yes, important part of this practice period, that working together we could learn a lot from each other. And well,
that's right.
About the resources we use and the resources we created, I think that we now we kept them for future lessons, because we know that we are going to continue working this way for some time. And well, it has been very useful to create our own material in that sense.
Of course, that's right. Also, now it comes to my mind that when you, at the beginning, you mentioned lesson planning, and what about the skeleton or the plan formats? Because that was something that we teachers, in a way, created for this situation. Edita has her experience with the multimodal plan, and probably at the other teachers also had to design the skeleton suitable for this situation. Edita, what about the format that you use for planning? I don't know.
Well, let the students
okay,
think
cool,
about
cool,
what do you do that they think about the plan. I mean,
that's right.
Maybe Marina or any other can say, right? If it was simpler, well, we tried to make it simpler, right?
Emilia, I don't know whether, okay, Marina, tell us.
Okay, I can share that we had both experiences. At St. Patrick, we did peer work, and we worked in groups. It was comforting and rewarding because the tasks, we divided the tasks among us, and it was simpler, it was less work. And then we had, well, for example, in my case, I did practicum at Normal 1 by myself, and I had to plan and organize all the activities. The class teacher didn't have a book, so she worked with a booklet, and all the material had to be done to be built and constructed, activities, games, everything has to be done from zero. As regards planning, the multimodal plan was a success. For me, it was simpler. I remember doing the plans for workshop 3. And in a way, we managed to translate the old plans into this new format, and it was easier, I believe. That's my opinion.
Okay, and what about at St. Bartholomew's? Anna, the two Annas, which was the plan format? How did you feel working with it? Workshop 3 or workshop 4? Rocio, Anna, don't know whether you want to share, or I can see Clara there, but don't know who wants to share as regards lesson formats, planning.
In my case, I had to present past simple. I had the topic, and I had the book. But when planning, I just take the structure from the book, and then I created everything. So I try to find out videos on YouTube. I also try to the use of a tablet to create different events. I was always trying to think and make them create so as to catch their attention and to motivate them. That is quite difficult, because if you have your book, your workbook, you say, okay, let's do this activity, then the other. And we did it this way, was quite different, and it was a challenge.
Of course.
For them to participate, to record themselves, we have a collaborative list with past simple regular verbs, and they have to look for the pronunciation, to record, to upload it to the list. So it was, I had to create everything.
Okay. So
and it was really hard sometimes to plan for synchronous and asynchronous at the same time. in my case, I had to present something in Zoom and then revise it asynchronous and then planning for those who were not present in the Zoom, and at the same time not to be repetitive for those who were present in the lesson. So it was quite demanding, and when planning, we constantly try to be on our students' mind, think questions that they may ask in class beforehand, so as to be as clear as possible in the rubrics. It was a challenge.
Yeah, I want to highlight, Juana, you said, so creativity is the key word.
Yes.
From teachers' part, because we have to be very creative, and also you foster students' creativity by making them collaborate.
How to adapt the activities. Maybe you have an idea, and then you say, how am I going to do it if they don't have their microphones on? So how can they collaborate or take part in that activity? So it was like, okay, thinking about everything when planning or when having an idea. Or,
anticipating many more things than in face-to-face teaching, no? Anticipating everything, right. Any other?
Sorry, can I add something?
Of course, Florencia, go ahead.
Because here in San Pedro, well, we belong to Provincia de Buenos Aires, and we are supposed to work, we were supposed to work in our practicas with a task-based approach. And for us, it was hard because we couldn't follow exactly the planning for a task-based approach, considering that the process was taking place virtually.
Yes, and we also were ordered to follow the same structure that the previous teacher has been used during the entire year. So it was kind of hard to get in the middle of those two different things.
Yes, we wanted to be innovative, but at the same time, we were supposed to stick to the routine that was being followed before. So, well, at the end, we got good results. We are happy with what we got.
We managed to follow the skeleton of the TBL, but I think we created a sort of new methodology in the way. Yes.
Of course, that will be for the next slide, no?
Yes.
Okay, but I kept thinking what you said at the very beginning, that you had to, in a way, to think whether to deal with grammar, for example, in the case of grammar, either think whether you were, in the Meet session or the Zoom session, or to do it to prepare a worksheet for students. And probably you tried them both. And in the end, it was trial and error and being what works better for one group or for another. I don't think there is an answer, no, whether to do this either synchronous teaching or asynchronous teaching. It was just trying to see how it worked in a way. Yeah, Anna, now that I can see you, what do you want to add anything as regards challenges and opportunities?
Yes, going back to what Juana and Clara were mentioning, I think that the thing of anticipating, we have learned how many things can go wrong in our virtual classes. So in a way, we are learning to always having a backup plan on our virtual classes. For example, once we have created an excellent game in Word Wall in a web page, and our internet connection was not working properly at that moment, so we didn't know what to do. So now we have learned that we always have to have a PDF file or something to share, to send it, and have another option, let's say. So we should anticipate those things that...
Okay, our plan B was always there. Okay, let's move on to the to the last, because some of you have already started speaking about adapting. And so if we could look back at this process we have already undergone, what would you adopt? What would you adapt? What would you abandon? Who wants to start? Don't know?
I can start, Dana,
okay.
from...
Okay, Dana. Okay.
Well, one of the things me and Anto were talking with Luciana was the idea that at first, something else that overwhelmed us was the idea of uploading assignments or reading material on weekends or on the days that we did not have the subject. So I think it would be better for students, in order to help them organize themselves, because it is really difficult doing it from home, to stick to the schedule that that we have. So then when this started to change and materials and assignments were uploaded, the days we had the subject, it was very organized and very helpful for us. So I think that that is something that I would change. Just stick to the schedule that students have in order to help them organize themselves and not overwhelm them.
I received the same comment from students at Aula Cosetini as regards meetings, that as they didn't have a fixed date or schedule. For example, the first time many students joined, but then the second time, that was a different day, different time, nobody came up. So probably something to consider and to take into account, Dana.
Yes, I think that is really important.
It's really important.
I think, for example, that it was really useful to have classes every Tuesday at the same time, because everyone would join the meeting with no problem, because they knew that we had at that time. So it was really organized, I believe, this subject.
That's right. Google Calendar helped a lot.
And also,
and
also because students, students start getting used to the routine, to having classes, for example, every Tuesday as we have. So that's one thing that I would adopt from this year.
That's right. Okay. People from San Pedro, something to add?
I think I would definitely keep on using the resources that we were able to find out, and
what to adopt.
Yes, for future practice in our lessons in the classroom. Let's hope so. That would definitely be something that I would adapt and adopt to as well.
Of course, right. What about people at Olga Cosetini? Emilia?
Emilia.
Yes, Emilia. Yes.
From Olga Cosetini. Taking back the classes timing as well as the schedule. We also had issues with the amount of time. Text Technica, we had almost 2 hours, and there was a lot of time, but only 1 class per 2 weeks. So maybe 1 class a week was more helpful for students as well.
Okay, Emilia. So you are
sorry, can you listen to me?
Yes, not very well, Emilia. But what you mean, you agree with the girls about this question of systematizing classes, making it a routine, no? How necessary it was for students, especially in this situation, so they could follow their routine. We have to help them to organize. Yes. Tell me, Emilia, yes.
We've also talked about some positive consequences that this had, sort of the empathy development. Maybe we tend to lose empathy for students, for our teachers, for our peers. And I think that during the pandemic, we've had a development of empathy, and that's of great value, I think.
Okay.
And another thing that some of my peers commented on, that the matter of their comfort zone. We had to get out from our comfort zone, make videos, make PowerPoints, have to face the screen rather than the class. So that was a common comment.
Good, right. Yes. Far away from our comfort zone. Okay. Something to abandon or nothing to abandon? Everything to keep, but adapt it perhaps.
One of my peers said that correcting or marking homework online was a thing to abandon.
Okay, okay. Probably adopting more Google Forms. Okay, probably more Google Forms, self-corrected Google Forms.
Yes, or maybe some creative tasks.
Okay.
Excuse me, Fabi. Leila has some problems. Leila Lombardo has some problems with the camera, and she wants to add something on the chat.
Okay,
she says that she would like to add an idea about this. She would adopt platforms, adapt feedback, and maybe abandon grammar part synchronically.
So just asynchronous teaching of grammar. Good, Leila. Good for your comment. Okay, somebody else? I cannot see the chat, so tell me, please, if there is something interesting to share.
It's interesting to see how the particular context has shaped more or less the ways that you're going to adapt or abandon certain things. There's always been an element of trial and error in teaching, and nowhere has it been more evident than during the pandemic. And I think that this has forced us all to reassess the situation, what we do, what teaching is, what learning is, because we all know that we need to be asking ourselves these questions. But do we regularly, or do we always do this? I think the situation has forced us to become truly reflective practitioners, and that's a major takeaway. And I completely agree with what Emilia said before, that we have been also, one of the major takeaways from this pandemic is that we have been developing conscientiously our empathy for the other, because we know how hard this is on everyone. It has taken a major toll on all of us in terms of family, professionally, environmentally, emotionally. And we got to know that there's always a reason for something, for a particular behavior or for a particular action. And we do not always know this in the right moment, but we know that it might be there. And we have become more flexible. And I think it has also been an excellent exercise in a balancing act, because we have become a lot more flexible because the situation demanded for this. But at the same time, we try to foster or encourage some certain routines that are necessary as well. So I think this has been a major experiment on how to become a reflective practitioner and a more effective teacher. And I think hearing all your comments and all your reflections, I am 100% sure that you're on the right path to becoming excellent colleagues. Okay. And one of the major takeaways that I didn't include at the beginning is that we always say that we need to connect with colleagues and interact more frequently. And this has forced us to set up or expand our networking. We have been working collaboratively with many teachers, and I encourage you to keep doing this, okay, beyond the pandemic. It's impossible to, it's not requested to reinvent the wheel. We shouldn't do that. And it's impossible to address all the challenges that teaching poses us if we work in isolation. So the bigger your network, the more effective you will become, and the more you will learn, and the more your students will learn as well.
Okay. I agree, Ariel, and I want to add that this really was a great opportunity for us teacher trainers, because we have learned a lot. We always do, but in this special situation, we have learned so much from you, trainees, that we want to thank you, because I mean, we reverse roles many times, and many times I told my students, please teach me, but how you did this? It's wonderful, tell me how. And so working collaboratively was the key in this situation. And I don't know whether other colleague wants to say something else, or if students want to add, because if not, we may be finishing with this sharing. Yes, we want to thank you a lot for daring to reflect upon the process and to share your experiences, your views. Special thanks to other teachers, other colleagues from San Pedro, Edita, from Ola Rosettini, Luciana, and St. Bartholomew's team, that's there, Ariel, Natalia, Damian. Thanks, Veronica, for welcoming this idea of doing this sharing. And I don't know whether you want to add something else, or we keep to the schedule and we finish on time. Tell me, what do we do?
They demand that, so let's keep to the schedule.
Okay, okay.
No,
thank you, Claudia, also.
Yes,
thank you for joining.
Thank you, Natalia, and Lorena, Lalita,
Lorena,
Carla, who is also
I
there.
would like to
Nati.
thank all of you for inviting us. It was really useful to listen to all the teachers' experiences and all students' experiences as well, because I think everyone has dealt with challenges during this whole year, and hopefully the next year will be a better one. Let's cross fingers, and well, I wish you all so much luck in this pandemic.
Okay, thank you for joining, Dana.
Thank you. So just to round off, I was trying to remember what Ariel said at the beginning, and then what the other comments were about. And I think that we can, I was trying to remember key words like empathy that you mentioned, collaborative work, networking, team working, which is basic for teaching, and then all the characteristics of teaching and learning that we were discussing in this question of, or in the context of e-learning. But something that I always tell my students and my colleague when we talk about e-learning, and maybe Carla, who is a specialist on this, may agree, that all these questions, the challenges, the opportunities, and the demands and the emotions involved in e-learning is just part of the same process of learning and teaching. So after all, e-learning is just a part, just one part of learning. So after all, it's just the same. Fortunately, and obviously, we have become more creative and resourceful. As you said, we have developed, we were forced to develop new strategies, but after all, we are just learning and teaching, right? So thank you for sharing this afternoon, this session, and let's hope we can meet again next year to plan maybe the next year in the same way, right? Being a sort of network of teaching practices, right? Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Bye. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.